Alright guys, how you guys doing? This is Dane down here at ZIMM'S Guitars. In today's video, I want to talk about the biggest rock and roll Hall of Fame snubs. So these are the bands that are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And we're going to also work on this guitar. This beautiful PRS SE CE needs to set up a new set of strings. One thing about this, about the Hall of Fame now, to me, it's turned into more of a popularity contest than actually a list of rock and roll bands. Your favorite rock and roll bands. There's some people, I'm sorry, but some of these bands don't deserve to be in there because they are not rock and roll bands, okay? So I've got a short list of some guys here. Okay, we're going to start in the A's and kind of go through the list. But my first band that I believe belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is Alice in Chains. Okay, Alice in Chains, one of the 4 big Seattle bands from the 90s. They are super cool. Now, I went and I actually saw Guns N' Roses 6 months ago, and Alice in Chains was the opening act. And everybody loves Alice in Chains. They're one of the big 4 grunge bands. They deserve to be in. Second on our list now, B-52s. Okay, now the B-52s, they're a rock and roll band. Were they a heavy rock and roll band? Did they go around calling themselves a rock and roll band? Not really, but if you listen to a lot of their tunes, they are considered rock and roll. They have a guitar player, they have a drummer, and again, you gotta also think about it like a popularity contest. The B-52s are very popular, and Love Shack is such a huge song. You know, I don't think that you should get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if you only had like maybe one hit song. Okay? B-52s had a ton of hit songs. It was played on FM radio. They sold a ton of albums. In my opinion, the B-52s deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay, coming up number 3, Bad Company. Okay, Bad Company, Paul Rodgers on vocals, great rock and roll singer, great rock and roll band. I think they deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Barry White is on this on the list. Barry White, to me, is not a rock and roll band. He was an R&B singer. It's fun to listen to Barry White. He was very popular. He's not a rock and roll band. I don't believe he should be on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay, coming up, Billy Idol. Billy Idol, absolutely, 100% deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He started off with his band Generation X, right? And they did a couple of albums. It's punk rock. It's definitely rock and roll. But in the 80s, we all know he had so many great hit songs. Steve Stevens on guitar. You don't get a better rock and roll guitar player than Steve Stevens. They were definitely a rock and roll band. They went through the MTV generation with tons of hit songs. And they're still out playing those songs today. 40 years later, he's still alive and well, and out singing the same songs and still kicking butt. Billy Idol, 100% deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay, continuing into some B's, we've got Black Flag, super cool punk band. If it's a popularity contest, the punk rockers know who he is. Did they have a hit song? They didn't have a hit song. Maybe someday they're getting snubbed. I don't know. I like Black Flag. I listen to this stuff. You know, I enjoy punk rock. I don't know how many bands are going to actually, do they have room for all the hundreds and hundreds of bands, thousands of bands I think Billy Idol is ahead of Black Flag. I'm gonna say no on Black Flag, even though they're one of the biggest punk bands on earth. Next on the list is Blue Oyster Cult. Okay, Burning for You, Godzilla, tons of hit songs. Don't Fear the Reaper. Come on, man, more cowbell. How is that not part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? They are a rock and roll band. They've never strayed from being a rock and roll band. I went and saw them live just a few months ago. A lot of original members. They're still kicking butt. They are still super cool for being in their 70s. It's proof that you can be in your 70s, and you can still be cool. And Blue Oyster Cult is super freaking cool. 100% they deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Coming up next on this list that I have is Blur. Okay, Blur is, I don't know too much about him, right, because of my age. But as far as I know, Blur only has one hit song. And to me, you need more, you need more than just one hit song to make it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now that one song is freaking super cool, but I only know one song from them. And so because of that, with Blur, I'm going to say I'm sorry, but I'm going to say no to Blur. Next on the list, we've got the Buzzcocks. Unfortunately, I'm going to say no to the Buzzcocks. Going into the C's, we have Captain Beefheart. I'm going to say no. We got the Chemical Brothers. I'm going to say no. We've got the Carpenters. The Carpenters, you know, I still have to say no. They're just not a rock and roll band. This is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is not a popularity contest. Okay? Cher. I think Cher's been nominated this year. She's probably going to get in there. I don't know. She's not rock and roll to me. Chic, not rock and roll. Coldplay. I don't think Coldplay has been around long enough. They've only been snubbed for 2 years. I'm going to say no. The Commodores, they're a super cool band. Lionel Richie and all that. I'm going to say no. The Damned. A lot of these poor punk bands, they don't have a chance to get in. They're the most popular bands of their genre. The Dead Kennedys, yeah, it's really hard to put them in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Maybe they deserve it. Devo has been snubbed for 22 years. They've been nominated 3 times. Devo, they were 5 guys that played their instruments, and they played rock and roll tunes. They were very popular. They have more than one hit song. Devo, I'm kind of on the fence about him. Dick Dale is next on the list, and he was very innovative with Fender amps back in the days. He deserves a pat on the back for everything that he did in music. But I'm going to say no on Dick Dale, even though he pretty much invented surf rock. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they have been snubbed 29 times. ELP, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they had sold a bunch of albums. They were huge in the 70s. I have to say yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Faith No More? No, one-hit wonders in my opinion. Fiona Apple? No, come on, man. The Flaming Lips? I don't know their music enough to comment on the Flaming Lips. Foreigner. Foreigner is on this list. Okay, come on now. They've been snubbed 22 years. They've only been nominated once. They had tons of hit songs. Okay, they've got a greatest hits album where everybody knows every song on their greatest hits album. If you've got a greatest hits album, okay, and you're a real rock and roll band like Foreigner is, I'm going to say you've had enough songs to be a part of this. I have to say yes to Foreigner. Okay, moving down the list, we've got Fugazi, we've got the Guess Who, Harry Nilsson, I love some of his songs, Husker Du, Ice-T. We're going to go to In Excess. In Excess was the sound of the 80s. They had tons of hits. I'm going to say just like Foreigner, they were a rock and roll band. There were 5 guys in the band that played instruments, and it was rock and roll music. That's the criteria for me. Is it 4 or 5 guys that actually play their instruments, and they are a rock and roll band? Yes. In Excess had tons of hits. They got a greatest hits album where everybody knows every song on that greatest hits album. That means they had a ton of great hits. I have to say yes with In Excess. I think In Excess should be in there. Next on my list, we're in the Eyes. I had to take care of a couple of customers and do a couple of things. But we're back at this list now and restringing this PRS. And In Excess, I was going to say yes on In Excess. But next on our list is Iron Maiden. Now, Iron Maiden, come on, guys. The biggest heavy metal band in the world, Iron Maiden. And they've been snubbed for 20 years. Nominated twice. And they are the biggest heavy metal band in the world. How can that be? How can this band be snubbed? It does not seem right. Something is weird about that. Okay? It makes no sense to me that Iron Maiden, one of the most popular heavy metal bands in the world, we're not talking about just big in UK, big in the United States. We're talking about in the world, South America, everywhere. Arguably, the most popular heavy metal band of all time. Come on, give me a break. They should definitely be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, without a doubt. Okay, so we've got a couple other bands on here. Jane's Addiction, they were kind of cool. Jethro Tull, they were around for a long time. Snubbed for 31 years. But the only argument that I could say is, do they have a memorable hit song? Are they going to go down as just being forgotten? How many people walk around going, ooh, Jethro Tull? Yeah, unfortunately, they were popular. They did a lot of records. The guy played a flute. I don't know. Okay, King Crimson, snubbed for 30 years. Probably one of the very first, I would maybe say prog rock, progressive rock. Robert Fripp. Yeah, they were okay. They kind of took over in the 60s with some psychedelic stuff. I went and saw them about 20 years ago, and it's very chaotic kind of music. It's almost like heavy metal jazz, rock and roll jazz stuff. I don't know if I'm really into them. My brother was going to kill me if I say no to King Crimson. My favorite song is In the Court of the Crimson King.
Lullabies in an ancient tongue, the court of the crimson.
That is an epic song. But I don't know if they deserve, like, is it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a big thing. You can't just put every band that's ever been around in it. Okay, so on the list coming up, Kool and the Gang. They're a great band. Are they rock and roll? I don't know about that. Mariah Carey, I'm going to say no because she's not rock and roll. Mary J. Blige, that's not rock and roll. MC5, they had one hit. They kind of helped the Detroit punk rock scene. I don't know if everybody knows them. Again, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, in my opinion, it's kind of a popularity contest. It's not so much about rock and roll. I don't know. MC5, they've been nominated 6 times. They've been snubbed for 33 years. I just think they were a little niche band that nobody knew about, even though everybody's heard of it. And I don't know. It seems sad for them, but I'm going to probably still say no on MC5. Next on the list is Megadeth. Okay, come on. Megadeth absolutely deserves to be in there. If Metallica is in there, Megadeth has to be in there. They're one of the big four when it comes to thrash metal in the world. You got Metallica, you got Megadeth, you got Anthrax, you've got Slayer. Put those four in there, okay? They're the top four heavy metal thrash bands in the world. Put all four of those guys in there. Megadeth deserves it. Slayer deserves it. Anthrax deserves it to be in there. And Metallica is already in there. Next you got Motley Crue. They've been snubbed for 18 years. Motley Crue is the biggest thing that's come out of the Sunset Strip. They deserve it. If you don't like how Vince Neil sings, it doesn't matter. He wasn't any good in 1983. They do stadium tours, okay? Name a band that does stadium tours. For the last 40 years, they played the US Festival. They headline stadium tours, and they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's crazy. You can love them or hate them. It's crazy to think they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The decade of decadence, right? They wrote the book on that stuff. Motley Crue deserves to be in there. Okay, next on the list, Motorhead. You gotta love Motorhead, but you know, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame it's a museum. You can't really, maybe they should rename the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to the Popular Music Hall of Fame. Because there's guys that are popular, but nobody knows who they are. They didn't have hit songs to prove their popularity. Motorhead is kind of one of those things. They were super cool. Lemmy from Motorhead, right? Awesome band. Are we going to remember anything other than the Ace of Spades in 20, 30, 40 years from now, when the next generation walks through the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? The thing is, you can't just put every band that you've ever heard of in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They would run out of room. The place would have to be the size of a giant supermarket or something. You would need, 50,000 square foot. You can't put every band in the world in there. Is Motorhead super freaking cool? Yes, they are. Did they have hit songs? No, they did not. Did they have selling albums? They sold pretty good. Did they have a super cool lead singer? Hell yes, they did. But can you put them in there? Are they going to stand the test of time? I don't know. You've got Motorhead fans, but is it going to stand the test of time? In 50 years from now, are people going to walk through the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and say, oh my God, Motorhead, there's the Motorhead exhibit, I don't know about Motorhead. And I feel the same way about New York Dolls. New York Dolls has been snubbed for 26 years or something. First band to ever wear a bunch of female clothing. David Johansen, I don't know if they deserve to be in there. I can't name a song that they did. Next on the list, I'm going to say Ozzy Osbourne. He's been snubbed for 19 years. Nominated. This is the first year of him being nominated. Hopefully, everything will go good and Ozzy will get in there, because he spent his whole life and his whole career playing rock and roll music and heavy metal. One of the innovators of heavy metal. He pretty much told everybody how to do it, and he's got millions of people to try to sound like him. I'm definitely going to say yes for Ozzy Osbourne. Next on the list, heading into some P's, we got Pantera. You gotta love Pantera. They took heavy metal to the next level. They were super cool. Yeah, it's Dimebag Darrell. He's a legendary guitar player. He's on a bunch of lists, the top 20 best guitar players in the world. He's on all those lists. I don't know if they're going to get in, though. It's gonna be tough to get Pantera in there. Pet Shop Boys, I don't know. Peter, Paul, and Mary, I'm gonna say no. The Pointer Sisters, I'm gonna say no. Poco Harum, been snubbed for 32 years. They had one great song that everybody loves. Arguably, A Whiter Shade of Pale is the perfect song. They've only been nominated once. I don't know if they deserve to get in there. Queens of the Stone Age, I don't think so. The Replacements, I'm sorry, I don't think so. Roberta Flack is not rock and roll. Rufus with Chaka Khan, this is not rock and roll. Are you going to rename the frickin' place Popular Music Hall of Fame, or is it the frickin' Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Make up your goddamn minds, people. All right? This is rock and roll. The Runaways, female band. Susie and the Banshees, I'm going to say no. We got Slayer. Absolutely. Slayer deserves to be in there. And so if you're going to put Slayer in there, you got to put Pantera in there. Yeah, but I think Slayer, the big four, thrash metal bands out there, I have to say yes to Slayer. Smashing Pumpkins, I'm not sure about. They had a lot of hits. They never been nominated. I'm not sure the Smashing Pumpkins are going to survive the test of time. The Smiths, I have to probably say no to. The Sonics, going to have to say no to. Soundgarden is a great band. I have to say yes to Soundgarden. They were one of the big four grunge bands in the world. I have to say yes to Soundgarden. Steppenwolf, there's people that would argue Steppenwolf should be in there. Magic Carpet Ride, Born to Be Wild, maybe. The problem is you just can't put every band that you've ever heard of into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There'd be no room. So you got to kind of pick and choose. But for one thing, the bands that are not rock and roll, then definitely leave those out, because if there's not room for, Slayer and, Slipknot and System of a Down, if we don't have room for those kind of bands, it just, you definitely got to leave off the bands that are, R&B music and stuff like that, so I don't know. Thank you guys for watching. The PRS is doing really good. I've got the strings on it. Let's tune it up. Okay, I don't like this tuner. This tuner is weird. I'll try this one. Yeah, but sort of my theory is there should be some criteria that if you're going to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you damn well ought to be a rock and roll band. If not, change the name of the place to the Popular Music Hall of Fame, okay? Because you're freaking a lot of people out by not describing your museum properly. If it's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, then they should be rock and roll bands. I don't understand what the problem is with that. If you want to start putting hip hop bands in there, maybe you ought to have the hip hop Hall of Fame. All right? If you want to start putting Motown bands in there, or rhythm and blues or stuff like that, come up with the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame. But don't put them in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That makes no sense to me. And if a band has enough great songs to have a greatest hits album, and they've sold millions and millions in albums, then I think that sort of, seems to me like that's a good reason to put them in there. Like Foreigner, okay? Foreigner has a greatest hits album. We know and love every song on that album. That means they deserve to be in there. Getting back to the list, We got Thin Lizzy, we got Three Dog Night, we got Tommy James, Tool, Tori Amos, Warren Zevon, Weird Al, The White Stripes, no, come on. Axe, Weezer. Weezer is a great band. People are going to remember Weezer in 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years from now. I almost kind of think Weezer deserves to be in there. They've had great songs. They're the music of a generation. They're a great band. I probably would throw Weezer in there. But anyhow, that's some of my thoughts on this whole Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing. But it's so aggravating when bands get nominated for this and they're not even in the rock and roll genre. Makes no sense to me. Rename the damn place the Popular Music Hall of Fame, if that's what it takes. And then there won't be so much confusion, alright? Okay, so you guys help me get through this restring. Wow. Nice guitar. Anything PRS is really nice. They come out of the Cortec factory in Indonesia. Guys, leave me a bunch of comments. Let me know what you think. Am I way off base there? Or, what do you think? And am I crazy? Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Check out my links down below. Consider becoming a Patreon or channel member. I have an Amazon link down there. Next time you go on Amazon for anything, click on my link and I'll make a few pennies on everything that you buy. It's a great way to support the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Go buy a guitar.